Okay, we're doing October-November 2024 physics, MCQ. The diagram shows a rectangular metal sheet close to two walls. So first, find the points that they're intersecting. I did it this way. So on the left side, there's 25 cm and the 5 cm marking, and then 10 cm marking and the 45 cm marking. Then find the width and the length, multiply those two to get the area. So area is equal to 25 minus 5 into 45 in minus 10, and then the product of that 20 into 35 equals 700. So the answer is A. Second question, the diagram shows the speed-time graph of an object. In which section does the object have the largest acceleration? So in speed-time graph, acceleration is the gradient, and since they said it's the largest, it has to be the steepest. So looking at the graph, we can see that B is the steepest, so the answer is B. Number 3, an object begins to fall close to the Earth's surface. Air resistance can be ignored. Which statement about the object's acceleration is correct? So air resistance is ignored. So let's read the option. The acceleration is constant. Acceleration decreases as the body falls. Acceleration increases as the body falls. The acceleration is 0. So acceleration has to be constant because air resistance is ignored. So A is the correct choice. B and C is wrong because the acceleration won't change since there's no air resistance. We ignored it. And for D is also wrong because that means the object is in terminal velocity and they didn't specify that. So A is the correct choice. Number 4, which quantity is equal to gravitational force? So gravitational force is basically just the force or the weight. So F is equal to ma, and acceleration in this case should be the gravitational field strength. So out of all the choices, it's only A. So the answer is A. Number 5, a concrete building has the dimensions shown. The mass of the block is 15,000 grams. What is the density of the block? So density Rho is equal to mass divided by volume. So the mass is given 15,000 grams. So we divide that with the volume. The volume is the 29 into 18 into 12. Put that into the calculator. You should get 2.4. Since the unit is in gram and centimeter, it should be gram per cm cube, so it's B. 5 is B. Six. What is measured by the moment of a force? The moment is the same as the turning effect or the torque. So B is the correct answer, since it is stating the turning effect of the force. Two identical containers, P and Q, are partly filled with different quantities of sand. The position of the center of gravity for each container is labeled X. Which container is more stable, and what is the reason why it is more stable? So stability depends on two things: where the base and how high up the center of gravity is. So in the picture, P has the lower center of gravity, and they both have the same base, so P should be more stable. The diagram shows a steel sphere falling to a cylinder of oil. Which row indicates what happens to the steel sphere and what happens to the oil as the steel sphere falls? So the steel sphere becomes warmer, the oil becomes warmer. Those two are part of the answer. So they both should get warmer. So both should be yes. Answer A is correct. It's because of friction. Okay, number 9. An object moving is brought to rest by a frictional force 30 newtons over a distance of 5 meters. The diagram shows the energy transfer between two stores: store of kinetic energy and store of internal energy. So energy transferred is calculated using W equal FD. F and D is already given, so 30 into 5, you'll get 150 joules. So answer is C or D. And how is the energy transferred? It's through mechanical working, since it is friction. Number 10, a motor transfers 24 joules of energy in 60 seconds. What is the power output of the motor? So P is equal to energy over time. Energy is 24 divided by 60. So put that in the calculator and you should get 0.4 watt. So the answer is A. An artist makes 4 sculptures with circular bases and places them on sand. All the sculptures are of equal weight and volume. Which sculpture is least likely to sink into the sand? So this question, we have to think using pressure. So pressure is inversely proportional to the area of the base. So in the picture, in all the 4 pictures, the least pressure is on D because it has the biggest area. So number 12, a quantity of water is boiled to form the same mass of steam. Which row shows how the volume and density of the water change? So water is turning into steam, so the steam will occupy more space, so the volume increases. Density and volume are inversely proportional, so the density should decrease. So the final answer should be C. The diagram represents gas particles moving around in a sealed container. The gas particles collide with the walls of the container. Okay, the picture is showing Brownian motion, which is the random movement of the gas. The temperature of the gas is increased. What happens to the average speed of the gas particles and what happens to the number of collisions by the gas particles with the walls on the container? So the average speed should increase because the temperature has increased. Since the average speed also increases, it means there's more frequent collisions, so the answer should be B. Number 14, a metal object is heated strongly in an oven. What happens to the volume of the object and the internal energy stored in the object? So the volume should increase because it's going to expand. So the choice between C and D. Since it's being heated, the internal energy should also increase. So the final answer is D. Number 15, which road describes the process of melting? Melting is the change of an object from solid state to liquid state. So the answer is already D, but there's no change in temperature because of the specific heat of fusion. Number 16, a beaker of water is heated and thermal energy travels through the water by convection. What happens to the density of the water when it is heated, and how does the water move? So when the water is heated, the volume will expand, so the density should decrease. So A and B. And how does the water move? The water moves from the hot water moves from the bottom of the beaker to the top of the beaker, so the water moves upwards. So the answer should be B. Number 17, waves moves across the surface of water. What is meant by the amplitude of the wave? So there is a middle line which we call the mean position, and it's the maximum distance from that middle line or mean position. So the answer is already A. Number 18, water waves change direction when they move from shallow water to deep water. What is the name of this effect? So diffraction, dispersion, reflection, refraction. It should be refraction. Answer is D. The ray diagram shows the formation of an image when light is reflected by a plane mirror. Okay, which lines represent light rays? The light rays only come from the object and bounce off the mirror, so it should be Y and Z only. Answer is D. X is not a light ray, it's just an imaginary line that we put that should show behind the mirror. So D is the only answer. Which diagram shows how an image of an object is formed on a screen by a converging lens? Okay, so the first image A is incorrect because the line in the middle is curving. That should not occur since it's going through the horizontal line. And B is also incorrect because if the focal length is twice, then it means the object is going to form an image at the back. D is obviously a wrong picture, so C is the only right answer. You can also just remember the picture of C for converging lens. That's correct. Okay, number 21. Which diagram shows the dispersion of white light by a glass prism? So the light should already be separating from within the prism, so C and D is already out. And for B, it's wrong because the red and the violet won't bend up like that. It should be A. Which regions of the electromagnetic spectrum are used for satellite television and for security marking? So for this one, you have to remember the list. You can find it on C notes, I assume. So the first one, we use microwaves, not X-rays. And for security marking, we use ultraviolet light, UV, so it's B. Number 23. The horn on a ship makes a sound. The captain on the ship hears an echo from a cliff 4 seconds later. So the horn is making a sound from the ship to the cliff. So that is one distance. That's initially what happens when the sound is moving towards the cliff and hitting it. After that, it'll come back to the ship, and so that's another distance. Basically, it travels twice the distance. So the sound can be divided by 2. 4 divided by 2 is just 2, and multiply that with the speed of the sound, 340, and you should get 680. So the answer is C. A bar magnet is next to a steel bar. Some of the magnetic field lines due to the magnet are shown. Okay, what are the correct poles of the magnet, and would the steel bar attract or repel the bar magnet? So the poles of the magnet goes from north to the south, and in the picture, the magnetic field lines are showing that from X to Y, so X should be north, Y should be south, and the force would attract the bar magnet because it is a magnetic material, the steel bar. So the answer is A. 25. Which rule about electrical conduction in metals is correct? So statement 1, it is the movement of free electrons. Okay, that is correct. So choices between A and C. Statement 2, electric charge is a flow of current, or electric current is a flow of charge. So electric charge is a flow of current, has it reversed. So the answer should be C. A is wrong. The diagram shows 3 wires, P, Q, and R. They are all made from the same metal. Okay, which list gives the wire in order of resistance from lowest to highest? So resistance is inversely related to area, and resistance is directly related to the length. R has the biggest area, so it should have the lowest resistance. It's also short, so R should be the first since they said lowest to highest. The choice is between C and D. And between P and Q, Q has the longer length, so Q should have the higher resistance. So the answer is C. Number 27, a 60-watt lamp operates at normal brightness for 2 minutes. How much energy is transferred by the lamp? So we use power is equal to energy by time formula. So E is equal to 60 into 2 into 60. 2 into 60 because we have to convert the minutes to seconds. And so the final energy should be D, 7,200 joules. What is a thermistor? Oh, a thermistor is a kind of resistor that depends on the temperature and changes its resistance. So out of all the choices, C aligns with it the most, so C is the correct answer. '29. The diagram shows a circuit containing 2 identical resistors connected to a battery. The current is measured at X and at Y. Which rule is correct? Arrangement of resistors. It's a series, so between C and D. And in a series circuit, the current at any point should be the same. So answer is D. Number 30, the mains voltage is 120 volts. Which fuse should be fitted to an electrical kettle with a power of 1.5 kilowatt? So the current in a 1.5 kilowatt kettle can be figured out using P is equal to IV. I is equal to P by V. P is 1.5 into 10 power 3. And then divide by 120. So the answer should be 13 amps. D. Number 31, the diagram shows a strong magnet and a weak magnet moving into the same coil of wire at different speeds. Okay, the first arrangement showing a strong magnet moving slowly. The second one is showing a weak magnet moving slowly, and the last one is showing a magnet that's moving quickly. So they want the arrangement that induces the largest electromotive force, EMF, and the smallest EMF. So to get a strong EMF, it has to be a strong magnet that moves quickly. And for the smallest EMF, it has to be a weak magnet moving slowly. So from looking at the arrangements, we can see that Y has a weak magnet while X and Z has a strong magnet. Y is also moving slowly, so it has the smallest EMF, and between X and Z, X is moving slowly, so Z has the most EMF since it is moving quickly. So 31 is D. The diagram shows a current carrying wire with an arrow in the direction of the current, which diagram shows the magnetic field produced by the current. So we should remember that if the wire is straight, the magnetic field lines should circle around the wire, like how I'm drawing. The one that matches the one that I just drew is B, so B is the correct answer. What are the best materials to use for construction of a transformer? So a transformer is usually made using soft iron. So soft iron for the core, and it has to have a coil wrapping around it that has good electrical conductivity, so they use copper usually. So soft iron for the core and copper for the coils. Answer is C. 34. Which diagram represents the structure of a neutral atom? A neutral atom means that proton and electron number is the same. So within the 4 of those atoms, B has the same electron and proton. So B is the correct answer. The diagram shows 5 atoms in a radioactive substance. The atoms each give out an alpha particle. Atom 1 is the first to give out a particle. Atom 3 is the second to give out a particle. Which atom will give out the next particle? So radioactive decay is spontaneous or random, so we can't actually tell which atom will decay next. So 35 should be D. The diagram shows a radioactive source, a thick aluminum sheet, and a radiation detector. The detector shows a reading greater than the background reading. Which type of radiation is being emitted by the source and detected by the detector? So since it is greater than the background reading, it must penetrate through the thick aluminum sheet. Alpha and infrared radiation will not, and infrared doesn't even have a reading on the detector, so A and D is already out. Between beta and gamma, gamma can penetrate through thick aluminum sheet while beta cannot, so C is the answer. The half-life of a radioactive isotope cesium is 30 years, starting with 30 grams of isotope. Which mass of the isotope remains after 90 years? So first we have to find how many half-lives. So 90 by 30 is 3 half-lives. So using the formula, divide the mass and use 2 power 3 to divide it. So it should be 30 divided by 8, and the answer is C. Which list gives the names of the planets in the correct order? So D is wrong because Mercury is the closest to the sun. Mars should not be the second one, so A is also wrong. And then between B and C, Saturn should come after Jupiter. So B is wrong. So the last answer is C. Which row describes the sun and the Milky Way? So the sun is a star and Milky Way is a galaxy. So the final answer should be C. What is the approximate diameter of the Milky Way? So the answer is D. This is something that you should memorize.